Okay, so this video is about basically this long-held belief that I've had that basically everybody is selfish, um, generally speaking. Okay, we're going to talk about some exceptions. We can talk about it right off the bat. I used to serve in the military, and while I was never called to give my life, and by circumstance I never gave my life, I'm still here. Hallelujah. But I could have, right? If the circumstances to which my unit was deployed or we were in war and I was in that situation, I'm sure if the truck blew up, I'd have blown up right along with it. You know what I mean? But this didn't happen, and I'm glad for it. So in a way, I was serving in a selfless type of organization, generally speaking. We understand that soldiers die for the cause of defending whatever America decides it's worth defending right now. And we're not going to talk too much about how that needle can change over time. But I've always kind of believed that people are and probably should generally be out for living a life that is suitable for them and their families. They should make choices that optimize towards their family's happiness, which I suppose we would say that's a selfish inclination. And you probably also want to extend that up a little bit when possible to like your community, to your country, to the world. Okay? We want to do that as long as idealistically we can do it. It's not like there's any sort of conflict. But the moment that conflict arises, whether if you're suddenly in a money situation and your brother is in a money situation, where should the money go? If you really had to choose a lot, you'd probably pick your own situation first because your own mind is the only thing that you really can comprehend anything through. So therefore, if you're unhappy because you're now broke and making your situation worse through helping somebody who needs it, well, I'm just going to guess that most of the time people will generally pick themselves or make some sort of compromise, but they're never going to say no to me. Or at least they probably won't. Now, again, you can. You absolutely can be selfless and help somebody in a time of need. And you should, if again. But I think it mostly comes from who should help people? Those who can. This is important to me as well. This video is mostly going to think about the idea of like selfishness, I suppose, and how most of what you're going to do in your life from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep is to probably further your own position in some small way. Even if you go to work and the only thing you're doing at work is making so that you get your paycheck at the end of the week. I understand that is, you might say that I don't know, but my point is that you are motivated by what makes you happier as much as you can. And if you're not happy, you're probably obsessed with the idea that you're not and what actions you could possibly take to make it better. By the way, if you're in those situations, I'll just cover what I think is really going to do it. If you're not doing one of these things, or all of these things really, then you're probably unhappy or likely to be unhappy. And if you did them, you'd be happier. Like, it's just not even an argument. Exercise, sleep, a good diet, being healthy, skinnier, work towards those goals. Okay. Now you can be, once you are at those things, like, oh, I sleep well, people having good relationships. This is the one that I skipped in pursuit of other things. Okay, there's many things that you can do, but I'd say like most people, anybody can control these things a little bit, or at least you should have some sort of way to control them. Hopefully you can. If you can't, then you're in a really bad spot maybe. But if you can't control what you go to eat, go to the grocery store and buy healthy food. If you ever buy unhealthy food and you find yourself to be overweight or obese, you're doing that. That's just the unfortunate reality. There are very small medical exceptions, and everybody wants to claim some sort of medical issue of I'm unhealthy this way or that way, my mind is unhealthy this way or that way, and therefore these things are no longer within my control. They are within your control. I'm sorry to say it. You have to improve your own life. The only way it works. Nobody's ever gotten a handout so big that their life was better because of it. You have to do, okay, there's some nepotism, don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, if you were born Sally from Virginia, you got to work for your whole life and make your life as good as you can make it. And these days you can see that anybody who starts from almost any spawn point, if you're in the United States for sure, if you are in the United States, I'm speaking to my American, fellows, you have the opportunity for one of the greatest lives possible on the planet ever. And I genuinely mean that. We live in possibly the greatest time of all time, and people just don't know what to fucking do with themselves because there's so many choices that it's kind of, analysis paralysis, right? How do you make an incredible life? So many people fall into just a simple 9 to 5 trap. Not that it is a trap. I'm saying it could be very valuable. But the point is, so many people fall into the choice that isn't theirs because of all the 14 billion choices they could have made, they picked one that was a little suboptimal. But again, it's not final. Most of the time, most of your decisions are not final. You have the opportunity to wake up today and do something better for yourself tomorrow. And what is my position on the idea of this? That you should. That it's okay to be selfish, to further your own ends. Because what did I also say? The people who are capable should help others. How do you do that better than to make your own situation as good as possible? If you want to be generous, you need some money. If you want to be strong, you need some muscle. If you want to be kind, you need some sort of way to empathize with people and help them at their lower points. Because we all need that. We all rely on each other. We are a species that is altruistic in nature and selfish in personal matters. And I think that those don't necessarily, they're not like hydrophobic or whatever. I don't know. They can work together. You can be a selfish person who 90% of the time focuses on your own ends and means. And then when you're strong enough and capable enough, you can help others. And by the process of helping them, you're still helping yourself. That's also, a big trick to this too. Some people think that I am so selfless. All I do is feed the homeless and, give them soup and, walk around the street and give out $100 bills or whatever bullshit. You know what I mean? But you're just appeasing your own ego. You have to understand it's impossible for you not to be selfish. Really. It is like genuinely impossible for you to do something without seeking your own satisfaction. You know what I mean? Like genuinely, you can't just go start. Let's say that. What is a way that you could even do something? Let's say that you go find somebody who's a dominatrix and you don't really like dominatrix, but you're going to let them beat you up because it gives them pleasure. This is probably the only way you could really be selfless. Okay, well, there's plenty more ways you could do it. But the point is, why would you do that? Why would you go do that? There's no fucking reason for it. She can find somebody else, is I guess my point, is just do what makes you happy because that's the only value that you're going to get out of it most of the time. And if you find value and joy in helping people, do that too. But don't say it's not selfish because you're just being whatever it is that you're being, right? You're not being honest about why you're doing the things that you're doing. If you're helping people, it's because you want to be perceived as good and helpful, not because being good and helpful is maybe something you necessarily. Again, you can absolutely value this. Just understand my point, my message, is that you really can't escape the idea that what you're doing is for your own benefit. The only time that you can really not do it is when you give your life to something. And yes, you can absolutely do it. We made that example right away. You will not be happy when you're dead. Well, there's an argument to be made. The problem is that nobody really knows. No living person has written a book on death. Or if they are, they're pretty uninformed. So many people can write about things but be uninformed about them. I can say the same thing of myself. I'm making all this analysis about how you should live your life, but I've barely lived myself. But anyway, that's besides the point for this video. I don't know how much else I want to say. I wasn't really super well scripted. I'm not scripted. I just knew I wanted to talk about the idea of selflessness for a second. And to give you a little bit of relief, hopefully, that you choosing to live a life that is great, that is different than maybe what you're doing, that pursues your ideal because it'll make you happier is a good idea and probably the only good idea that you'll have consistently. How do I make my life better? What can I do to make my life amazing? I'm going to go ahead and do that because I'd rather live an amazing life than what I'm doing today. And maybe today's not so bad, but the point is can tomorrow be better? Answer yes. Do that. Think about these things. Be logical too. I have a lot I want to say on the idea of, being intelligent, trying to move intelligently towards a goal. I mean, I'm definitely no expert. I'm not that smart because I'm not doing good things. I'm pretty dumb today. But I do feel like a lot of the emotional ideas that I have are not so dumb and good for your soul. But you still have to ask the better question of how do I actually get there too? How do you be intelligent enough to solve the problem? I think it's important, and you should improve yourself in that way. And I want to improve myself that way too, and I always have. But I always feel like I fall short, but I'm still going to pursue it. I have no choice. I really feel that way. I must keep moving, or this is all for nothing. So anyway, this is the idea of selfishness and how you can leverage it maybe to improve your life. Probably could have ended on a higher note, and I'm unconfident. That's why I keep saying horrible things that don't resonate with what I'm actually trying to say. So I'm very human. I'm sorry. This is so awkward.